Good morning to you all, my dear children. So here we will start up our chapter number 4, that is Set Our Children Free. As the title suggests, this is about children, and here the word free even relates to the point as it is talking about the freedom of children. So here there are different classes of children. Like as you people are quite privileged. You people are coming to school, and then you are getting education. You are getting many facilities by your parents, isn't it? But on the contrary, there is another class of children. Who are they? They are imposed to work. They are not even allowed to go to class 1 even. Why? Because they are forced at that tender age to do work so that they can help or support their family to get 2 times of a meal, right? So this here the author is relating his speech to this kind of this community of children. So where he says that children should be given right to education, right to freedom, should be free from child labor and all that. So here this Kailash Satyarthi, who was a famous person, he has written this story. Actually this is not a story, basically this relates to the speech which he gave when he got the Nobel Prize for Peace, right? He was an Indian belonging to Madhya Pradesh, and he worked for child rights. Here the story goes. We will be reading up that how he has visualized this community of children, right? So we will be reading up. Your Majesties, Your Royal Majesties, Royal Highness, my dear daughter Malala, dear brother Tom Harkin, and my sisters and brothers. Friends, the Nobel Committee has generously invited me to present a lecture. Respectfully, I am unable to do that because I am representing here the sound of silence, the cry of innocence, and the face of invisibility. I represent millions of those children who are left behind, and that's why I have kept an empty chair here as a reminder. I have come here only to share the voices and dreams of our children, because they are all our children. So here, what is the scene? He is Kailash Satyarthi is addressing his speech by thanking the honorable authorities, and then he is addressing the whole community by calling them his brothers and sisters. And then he says that although he has been invited there for giving a lecture, as he was given a prize. So after getting a prize, you need to say something. So then, but he says that here he is quite speechless. Why? Because his heart is towards the invisible, towards the hidden reality of society, which is the condition, poor condition of children, which is the piteous condition of children. So here he says that he is going to represent that caste, that community in front of all the people, so that the efforts should be made for their improvement, for their well-beings. So here, even as a symbolic purpose, he has kept a chair vacant there, so that everybody relates to that chair, that it is vacant. Why? Because the children are not given proper place. So for that symbolization, he has given that vacant chair there, right? 20 years ago, in the foothills of the Himalayas, I met a small skinny child laborer. He asked me, is the world so poor that it cannot give me a toy and a book? Instead of forcing me to take a gun or a tool. Look on to the condition of that community, that they are forced to take revolvers or guns in their hands. They are forced to do militancy instead of getting toys. Why? Because they don't have money. They don't have money to eat food, to get food. So for getting food for themselves and for their families, they are forced to choose or to get the things what they are imposed. So here by this dialogue, Kailash Satyarthi is touched. 12 years ago, a child mother from the streets of Colombia asked me this: I have never had a dream. Can my child have one? So poor condition. So can you see the situation of the author, that how could he answer this question? Friends, all the great religions teach us to care for our children. Jesus said, let the children come to me, do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to them. Holy Quran says, kill not your children because of poverty. Friends, there is no greater violence than to deny the dreams of our children. So here he is getting the quotations of Jesus, and then he is getting the quotation from the holy book Quran even, where the children are given the topmost priority, and even they are compared to the shadow of Almighty, right? So he says that they should be given too much of liberty, and their dreams should be fulfilled. Therefore, I refuse to accept that all the temples and mosques and churches and prayer houses have no place for the dreams of our children. I refuse to accept that the world is so poor when just 1 week of global military expenditure can bring all the children to classrooms. I refuse to accept that all the laws and constitutions, police and judges are unable to protect our children. I refuse to accept that the shackles of slavery can ever be stronger than the quest for freedom. So here he is, getting the examples from various fields. That is, he says that everybody should participate to work for the freedom of children. He says that if the temples, mosques, and then these churches and prayer houses would give their own contribution to work for their freedom, definitely they would be taken up, they would be brought to the classrooms if they play their own part. And then even he is comparing the expenditure to bring the children to the classroom to the expenditure which is borne by the military forces for 1 week. So just see the situation, see the imagination, see the visualization of Kailash Satyarthi. So to up till which level he is thinking about children, isn't it? So then he even says that he cannot digest this fact that this police forces cannot bring the children to the classrooms, as they are so powerful, they can do anything, they are taken up like that. So then he is unable to understand why they are not playing their role. And then he even has hope in his mind, and he says that this law even should work for their rights. And he says that the chains by which some criminal is tied, he says that how can those chains be stronger than the quest for freedom? how can those chains, tie someone who wants to be free, right? So this is the thing, these are the things where the narrator, the author is unable to understand that why the efforts are not being done in this case. I refuse to accept my only aim in life is that every child is, so now he is representing that what he wants of that what every child should be given. Free to be a child, free to grow and develop, free to eat, sleep and see daylight, free to laugh and cry, free to play and learn, free to go to school, and above all, free to dream. So you can well compare and contrast these rights with your own rights. You all must have these rights, but that community doesn't have. So he is focusing that they should be given all these rights. I have the privilege of working with many courageous people who have the same aim. We have never given up against any threat or attack, and we never will. We have made progress in the last couple of decades, but let us make no mistake, great challenges still remain. So he is saying that although we are, on the path of modernity, although we are on the path towards the progress, we are attaining, but still there are many efforts which are not made for the future of our next generation, which will be building our community, which will be building our nation. So he says even the efforts should be made in that field. Friends, the biggest challenge or biggest crisis knocking on the doors of humankind is fear and intolerance. Rights, security and hope can only be restored through education. Young people like Malala, I have started calling her my daughter Malala, not just Malala. So my daughter Malala and other daughters including Kainat, in fact 2 Kainats and Shazia and the daughters from Africa and from all over the world. They are rising up and choosing peace over violence, tolerance over extremism and courage over fear. So he says that, that it is the biggest challenge of humankind, that human beings are afraid of getting their power shared with others, and then they don't have tolerance, they don't have the feeling of brotherhood. So that is why the condition is going worse day by day, right? So then he says that he's now mentioning about these girls, Malala and then Kainat and Shazia, who are from the different countries, but still he is relating to them as his daughters, and he says that there should be feeling of oneness all over the world. And now he says that they even are putting their best efforts and they are choosing better path for them, that is they are choosing their rights, they are choosing their they are adopting courage and they are leaving fear from their personality. So they are wearing peace over violence. So here, so now next we will read just a sec. The solutions are emerging, but these solutions cannot be found in the deliberations in conferences alone and cannot be found in prescriptions from a distance. You may ask that what can one person do? So here he says that the solutions are possible, but it is not possible that those are taken only in conferences. Everyone is to play his own part, which he is relating to a story. And here, which story he is recalling upon? He is recalling upon a story of a bird. So what happens in the story? Let's read out. He recalls a story of his childhood. A heavy fire had broken out in the forest. All the animals were running away, including the lion, the king of the forest. Suddenly he saw a tiny bird rushing towards the fire. He asked the bird, "What are you doing?" To the lion's surprise, the bird replied, "I am going to extinguish the fire." The lion laughed and said, "Wow, can you do it keeping just one drop of water in your beak?" The bird was adamant and she said, "I am doing my bit." So now from here, from this story, we have got to know that he is demanding everyone else to play his or her part for working for the freedom or for working for child rights, right? So as that tiny bird even played his own part, although the lion escaped from the place, he could not face the fire and he could not do anything to extinguish fire, but the tiny bird did. So now here the ordinary man even can do something for child rights. So this message is being given by this story. Friends, we live in an age of rapid globalization. We are connected through high-speed internet. We exchange our goods and services in one single global market. Thousands of flights every day connect us from one corner to another corner of the globe. But there is one serious disconnect, and that is lack of compassion. So here he is now giving the example that although we are connected with other countries through the airways or the other ways even are there, but still we don't have a common flight of compassion with each other. We don't have pity towards each other. We don't have feelings of brotherhood. We are not sympathetic to others. Although we are connected by physical means, but by emotionally we are not connected. Let us inculcate and transform these individuals' compassion into a global compassion. Let us globalize compassion. Mahatma Gandhi said, "If we are to teach real peace in this world, we shall have to begin with children." I humbly add, let us unite the world through compassion for our children. So here he is urging for globalization of compassion, right? So here he says that we should not be confined to only our own country, rather to the other countries on even. Whose children are they who stitch footballs, yet have never played with one? Whose children are they who harvest coca, yet have never tasted chocolate? Whose children are they who are dying of Ebola? Whose children are they who are kidnapped and held hostage? They are all our children. So here he is giving the message not to discriminate the other children with from our children. That is, we need to address all the children as our own, right? So here he says that we should have the feeling, the sympathetic attitude towards that community of children. I remember an 8-year-old girl we rescued from intergenerational forced labor from stone quarries. When she was sitting in my car, right after her rescue, she asked me, "Why did you not come earlier?" Her angry question still shakes me and has the power to shake the whole world. Children are questioning our inaction and watching our actions. So the question of that girl is still hurting the narrator, that why he is not able to do something in this regard. It is bothering his mind, and he says that this community of children, that is this today's generation, is watching that what we all are doing. They are watching what we are even not doing for. We need collective actions with a sense of urgency. Every single minute matters, every single child matters, every single childhood matters. Therefore, I challenge the passivity and pessimism surrounding our children. I challenge this culture of silence and this culture of passivity, this culture of neutrality. So here it is the need of the hour to do some work in this field. We must be bold, we must be ambitious, and we must have the will. We must keep our promises. Over 50 years ago, on the first day of my school, I met a cobbler boy my age sitting outside the gate of my school. I asked my teachers, why is he working outside? Why is he not with us in the school? My teachers had no answer. One day I gathered the courage to ask the boy's father. He said, "Sir, I have never thought about it. We are born to work." His answer made me angry. It still makes me angry. As a child, I had a vision for tomorrow. A vision of that cobbler boy sitting with me in my classroom. Now that tomorrow has become today. So now what he says, that we should fulfill all our promises, and now here he quotes the incident that there was a cobbler boy outside his school, and he was quite worried for his education, although his father have never ever thought about his education, because he had been given this conditioning only, that they are only there to work, they cannot get education. So this difference should be fulfilled, this gap should be fulfilled. So this is the urge of Kailash Satyarthi. I am today and you are today. Today it is the time for every child to have a right to life, right to freedom, right to health, right to education, right to safety, right to dignity, right to equality, and right to peace. All these rights as fundamental. Today, beyond the darkness, I see the smiling faces of our children in the blinking stars. Today, in every wave of every ocean, I see my children are playing and dancing. See his imagination, all related to children, all related to the happiness of children. Today, in every plant, in every tree and mountain, I see our children growing freely with dignity. Friends, I want you to see and feel this today inside you. He says that if we will have this feeling in our mind, then only we can create such an environment. So that is why I have this vision, and he is requesting all the others to have this kind of vision. Friends, I want you to see and feel this today inside you. Today I see thousands of Mahatma Gandhis, Martin Luther Kings, and Nelson Mandelas calling on us. Let us democratize knowledge, let us universalize justice. Together, let us globalize compassion. I call upon you in this room and people all across the world. I call for a march from exploitation to education. I call for a march from poverty to shared prosperity, a march from slavery to liberty, and a march from violence to peace. So here he says that he is able to visualize the many renowned people, that is many there would be many successful people from this community even. So he wants that they should be worked upon. So he says that we should work for peace, and we should work together for their prosperity. He calls upon the march from darkness to light, and then from morality to divinity, and from ignorance to awakening. So which is also the need of the hour, that is we should also do that. So let's disperse today's class. Thank you.